remote work and this experience can be either one of the biggest challenges and can be very bad for a company, or you can actually take advantage, and this can be the best experience you will ever have in your company, and it can change how you work and can prepare you to the future.
All our investment in building up good relationships within that team, they really paid off now that we are working remotely.
There really needs to be a remote leader that also guides the team now during this period.
Remote work is a result of the things that you do in your company.
Thanks for joining. Welcome, everybody. I'm really happy that the remote work community grew that much during the last couple of weeks. But obviously, that's also comes with a kind of mixed feelings. I think the current remote work situation is a very special one, and we had that conversation with Nora a while ago, like 2 weeks or so, and we said, well, maybe there is quite a lot of people being pushed into the cold water of remote work right now. So maybe we should try to put something together and reach out to the community. And yeah, that's how things unfolded. Maybe Nora, do you want to tell a bit about?
Yeah. So, well, it actually started in Vienna with a meetup that wasn't remote. Well, we had a remote speaker, but well, the meetup itself was not remote. But yeah, well, due to the current situation, it has changed quite a bit. And well, my experience is kind of I've basically been working remotely for all my life, and in different positions. And I think it's well, first coming into it from I would love to just see more companies that work remotely. That would be a great thing. But on the other hand, now we of course have a different situation, and it's of course not exactly the same as just normally working remotely. Normally you have time to prepare your team for it, to prepare your company for it. And now it's of course more of an emergency meetup. You might all not be prepared to go the step to work from home. You might have your kids at home and a lot of other circumstances that are not ideal. So in this meetup, we really just want to share our experience with it, the things that you maybe should first be thinking of, because at the moment, the idea that we've gotten is that a lot of people also just feel overwhelmed with all of the many things that they need to do, and of course also a lot of insecurity that is just currently present at this time. So of course it's not remote work under the perfect circumstances, but we definitely want to offer some tips from our experience.
Thank you, Nora. Yeah, I think actually the one thing that I associated with remote work was kind of a free choice of location for me personally, right? Which is kind of a different thing than my current perception. That feels a bit different, but I still enjoy it in a way. So we've put that online, and thank you, Nora. You have reached out to the community and invited our special guests. So welcome also June on board and Gonzalez on board of our meetup today. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Who starts? June, go. Ladies first.
Ladies first. Hi, everyone. My name is June Bolneo. I'm actually the globalization lead for Grow Remote. It's a nonprofit organization that, you know, our main goal is to educate people about remote working, what it is, what's its benefits, and we've been doing this for almost a couple of years now. I'm also the founder of Work Remote, which is we train individuals and companies to adapt to this new way of working. And yeah, that's it. I've been working remotely for 8 years. And before that, I was also working for offshore business process outsourcing, which is technically remote as well, because all of our clients are from the US and Australia. So I've been working remotely since I was 19 years old, basically. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I can go now. So I'm Gonçalo. I'm from Portugal. I'm the founder of Remote Work Movement, which started as a podcast where I interview people making a ruckus at the Remote Work Movement, and it became a consultancy business. So I do also help companies to move to remote work, to implement remote work with quality, and I'm really focused right now in helping a lot of companies in emergency setup, like you mentioned, that is very, very different from my usual setup. Yeah, and I work remotely for a while. I was a digital nomad, and now I'm doing the opposite, being locked down in Lisbon.
Okay, thank you, Gonzalo. Yeah, my name is Oliver. I will be your moderator today. I have the honor, and we prepared some fancy stuff for you to be involved and not just to listen, but also to participate actively. Just a few words. Me and some guys were working on this workshop today, and I want to say thank you to Esther, who will facilitate, who will do visuals today. We have Eric, Philip, and Andreas, who also participated in the design of this interactive remote workshop.
Big thanks to you, Oliver, of course.
Pardon me?
Big thanks to you for facilitating the workshop.
Oh yeah, you're most welcome. Okay, and I hope you can see this screen I shared with you. And I want to go to the second thing. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to have a small check-in afterwards. Then we process some rules. Well, actually, we will have some breakouts today, breakout rooms. I don't know who's familiar with it. If you're not, be surprised. It's going to be fun. Rules are that if you have questions, maybe you ask them in the after the breakout rooms are closed. There you can ask all your questions. That's the trick today. We will have open question to the panel afterwards. You'll see soon. Then we have the first breakout session. Then we have experts' answers on your questions, and then we will do a second breakout session and an expert discussion around the questions or needs or whatever popped up as from the breakout session. Then we will do a little transfer. So that means you're going to have takeaways from this remote session today, not just that you were here and it's now we heard all this stuff, but and what now? Now we gave it a thought that actually you could really take away some doings, hands-on things that you really could use in your companies or wherever you are. And then we will do the checkout. So that's it for today, what we're going to do. And we will start with the check-in question, and that will look like this. Just give me a second. Okay, there we go. Now you should see this Mentimeter page here. And I would ask you on your computers to go to www.menti.com, enter this little code there, 888478, and answer the question which is written here. And we will see what happens. And therefore you have about 5 minutes of time. There we have the first word, confusing, interesting.
That's a great first word for remote work.
Completely sums it up. Yep, that's what it is.
Again. Oh, interesting.
Are we also supposed to contribute a word?
I don't know if you if you like.
You feel like contributing?
Totally, but actually, I'm quite happy with what is unfolding in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone more?
I like the central words.
Inspiring, yes. Unsupported. Interesting. So there's a lot of things going on there. I think we also have a broad bandwidth of experiences here.
I like the balance of like negative and positive in there, right? It's like you can see there are some inspiring words, of course. That's in the middle. But there's like a balance of the challenges and also
Okay.
what to look forward.
All right. I think after we have done this, I will take a screenshot of this as well. We will share all these things, of course, afterwards. Then I would jump to the next page where you can see this little graph here. How confident are you that you will be successful with remote work? And if you move your mouse over, yeah, thank you. The first one already did. Yeah. There we have this little graph. Let's have a give it some minutes. It's before this meetup, right? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 14, 15, 16, 17. Some people still could do. So we have 17 votes. Does anyone else want to go there? If you need help, with www.menti.com and enter the code if you're comfortable, because we will do this in the end again, second time, to see the difference. Okay, so for now, I would like to continue and come to the question. Happy and productive as a remote team, a first aid online meetup. And the stage is all yours, Michael, Nora, June, and Gonzalo. What does it take? What are the ingredients? What are your experiences?
Who wants to start?
You can start. I complete your information.
Maybe I should start, right? So to share my experience with remote work, and to be quite honest, I feel that the remote workers of today are so lucky that we have such a big network of remote workers now willing to help each other. Because when we first started, almost a decade ago, we had no support whatsoever. We didn't know how things work. There were no processes. There were even instances that you might get a bad client and they would run away and they will not pay you, right? And that, although it still exists, it's very, very unlikely to happen today. And there are really big companies that are credible, that would hire people, full-time remote workers. And so my suggestion for people who are thrown into remote working now, not by choice, but by force, is basically nail down your routines, your routines in the morning and your routines at night. Because the most challenging thing when your manager is not around is to manage yourself. And believe me, sometimes that's the hardest thing that you can do. And it might sound like it's common sense when we're talking right now, but imagine waking up every day and nobody is there that you need to be in the office at 9 a.m. right? You can just go ahead and wake up and roll out of bed and then open up your laptop, and you do that consecutively for weeks and it will it will take a toll on you. And basically what we are experiencing now is just the honeymoon phase. Everybody, that it's very novel, it's very new, and everybody wants to work remotely, or maybe are forced into working remotely. But the real challenge is that when you are doing this for an extended period of time, your bad habits now will become worse habits later. And so you need to correct them now so that they don't accumulate. It's like compounding interest, right? So that's why if this is not the first time that you've been to a remote work session or talk or whatever, people are always talking about routines and simple things. It's because it's so important for us to actually nail that, as soon as you start working remotely.
Yeah, I agree. I can speak a little bit on the side of the companies as well, because this is scary for everyone. It's the first time a lot of companies that 3 months ago, they told me we will never go remote, ironically are now working fully remote, which is the actually opposite of what they believe. And this is demanding. While the IT companies and a lot of tech companies they have the processes and they have the tools. I was working with a public institution that they have nothing. They have email and they created WhatsApp groups. So that's the tools they have to work remotely, and that's insane, right? So again, for the leaders, I think it's also very important if you still have time to prepare. We have here someone from the UK that still has a couple of days to prepare, at least a weekend to prepare. Have a plan and have a backup plan, because this will not be 2 weeks. This will be at least 1 month, or I'm betting at least 2 months. So yeah, have a plan, prepare yourself, prepare the tools, prepare the processes, get informed. I guess that's why you are here as well. Remote work and this experience can be either one of the biggest challenges and can be very bad for a company, or you can actually take advantage, and this can be the best experience you will ever have in your company, and it can change how you work and can prepare you to the future, because the future will be distributed, the future will be remote, we will be working more and more from home. All the statistics say that. So if you take this exceptional situation and you implement the systems and you implement the tools that will allow you and your team to work remotely from now with quality, with processes, things will work out and you will end this crisis 10 times better than you started it.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit on that, what we normally tell companies when they do the transition is that remote work is a result of the things that you do in your company, right? Imagine a company who communicates well. The processes are so well outlined. It's so clear, communicated to everybody. You know where to get your resources. You know who to talk to, how to talk to them. And as a result of this, you're able to work from anywhere. You don't even need to be in the office to be able to do your job, because it's so clear. And all of the things that you need are accessible to you, regardless of where you are.
I mean, I think first of all, it's of course also really important to realize, well, as I said already at the beginning, it's not a normal situation. It's like this is not normally how remote work works, and you would go through a different process. So now I think it's important to be very minimalist about this. So choose a few tools, and okay, if it's WhatsApp, if people can work with WhatsApp, at the moment you don't have the time to use a very complex project management tool that people are not familiar with. If people are not very tech savvy, go for a tool that you're familiar with and just make it work, because there's just no time to do anything else. In the end, like later, you can still improve it and try to choose a better tool. But for now, just choose a few tools that work for people, and that also you don't need to train people to use them. And if it's a Facebook group, then it's a Facebook group. Whatever works for the particular organization or startup or whatever the context is that you're working in. And I think then also a big emphasis just needs to be put on communication. It's always important, but especially in this situation, because people will have different problems apart from just, actually managing themselves. But especially if they have children, they will also still have to have this burden to manage, and other burdens that are just on top of it. So having communication, check-ins with employees is very, very important. And then you can also address things like, well, homeschooling. People can also talk about their experiences, as well as just regular check-ins, and make it a priority that employees on one hand can talk to each other regularly. So for example, if they normally do check-ins and talk to each other at the beginning of the workday, try to have these check-ins and mimic your regular workday as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. So I think you have sort of described the basis in a wonderful way. I have a background in agile. I'm working with agile product teams, and I'm in a very luxury situation that most of them are actually pretty well prepared. Like they want to work from home like for years, but we're waiting for it to happen. So that's really a good sort of point to start. And my biggest concern at that point was how can we manage to sort of be that team that we were when we were like co-located face to face every day, with lots of fun, like having our kicker table and having lots of informal conversations that really created that sort of team bonding that I really enjoy when working with agile teams. And I was really puzzled how well that is going to work. And actually, I mean, the time that we had now was not a very good sample, because everybody had to take care of the kids at home as well. Like we not only work remote, we are also doing homeschooling most of the time. So very special. But what I have felt is that all our investment in building up good relationships within that team, they really paid off now that we are working remotely, because we have a very high level of trust in each other. We don't, that's just the best basis for working together remotely. And the thing that I think helped us a lot was to actually plan for the fun parts of the day and plan for the informal communication that doesn't come automatically as it came before, right? So before we just had a break together, we went for lunch together, and that doesn't happen now, not if we don't plan for it. And so I think that was a big, that was very important for us. And we also created the opportunity to communicate. I also think communication is it's key, but it's actually working really well through video. It's the informal bit again, the informal bit of communication, the approachability of our team, also between the team members, but also for our customers, for example, that we needed to sort of design. And our solution to this was basically to create basically an online video room where people sort of meet and hang out. And actually, much of the day, everybody of the team is in that online video room, not necessarily with a video on, but you can talk to everybody like spontaneously. And this is really feels a lot more like a team, and was very important to us.
Yeah, here actually also a similar idea. So with my previous company, so my experience is mainly working remotely as a freelancer, as well as working for kind of in a startup environment, small company of like 10 people, but also with a lot of freelancers working for us. And what we did at some point was also just set up coffee chats. So we had our meetings that we tried to keep as short as possible. And then on the other hand, we also wanted to have some, well, we call them coffee chats, half an hour where we just meet and we don't talk about work. In the end, of course, sometimes we ended up talking about work and just getting a lot more creative and getting ideas that we otherwise might get during the lunch break. So that also helped us. So it's a little bit of a similar idea, just set up a little bit differently. And I think that's very, very important to keep up the team communication. And in general, what I also would still like to add, it's just processes. Like as soon as you have the tools, it's also important to define some processes. And at the beginning, they should be very simple. And it's important that you don't set up different systems. That one person, let's also just use this cool tool, and then another person makes another suggestion, and then in the end you will get different processes. So that's actually something that happened at my former company, because we had one part that was remote and the other part wasn't remote. So actually the part that wasn't remote, they actually had a different system. They were working with Microsoft Office. They had different communication channels than the remote part. So yeah, that will create a lot of problems. So it's very, yeah, there really needs to be a remote leader that also guides the team now during this period and makes decisions as minimalist as possible. This process, these tools, not more than that.
Yeah, definitely. And look for help if you don't know how to do it. Like there is a lot of experts in the market. We have here too, but we have a file with more than 20 experts, and there is a lot of good information out there. There is also a lot of bad information, so be careful with that. And I just want to tell you a little story that in my previous company, we were fully distributed, meaning we had no offices. I was last year as a digital nomad in Asia, mostly in Bali, my favorite place in the world. And I had daily calls with my team, and I had one-on-one calls with my manager every single week. And although I never met them, we really created a social connection that if I see them in the streets today, I'll consider them my friends because we really connected over time. And we never met each other in person. I have no idea how tall they are. I have no idea, but we were like this, talking face to face every single day. And we were talking not only about work, but of course, where are you? Oh, I'm in Paris. Oh, I'm in Bali. Look at this. This is my house. And these little things, even not being in the same building, can create connection. Social interaction is definitely important, and specifically right now that we are all isolated, but it has to be done with purpose when we are all working fully distributed, fully remote. So you should actually design these times for social interaction, design the little meetings for stand-ups in the morning that like you were telling me, and design the first 5 minutes for social interaction. Hey, did you see the news? It looks like UK is also going to the lockdown. Yeah, it's insane how they are so late. What the hell? So like, create these conversations in the beginning. Okay, now let's talk. What have you done yesterday? Oh, I did this. I had this problem with the client. Anyone has an idea? Create conversation. This will happen naturally if you set up these times for social interaction with purpose. For teams that really want to mimic what is happening in the office, there is 2 cool tools that I really love. One is sococo.com. I can write it here now. The other one is Vurk. They are both mimic the office environment where you have different rooms. You can do video calls inside, and you see the people who are working. You can see them inside, which room they are. If they're in the social side, you can meet with them. You can have a conversation with them. They are both very similar. The second one is a startup. The first one is really, really, really old. And yeah, if you really want to mimic, I think these 2 tools can give you the feeling of control and the feeling of interaction that you are used to when you are in the office, because you see the different rooms, you see where people are, you can actually go to the room and connect with them, you can have calls, and it works really well to simulate what people do socially inside office environments.
Yeah, and a lot of things about remote work is actually intentional. So just like what, everybody is saying, that communication is difficult when it comes to remote working, mainly because we don't have those visual cues, or we do have the video call, but the body language and everything else is just it's missing in there. And so we have to make up with it with being more communicative in other ways, and you need to go ahead and find alternative methods to achieve the same results, right? So yeah.
Just a quick hint from my side. We have 6 minutes more left for the first panel session.
I want to go back to what Nora said about the tools and processes. And so most of the fully distributed companies right now, they have a head of remote, or somebody who is in charge of the remote work culture, because it's something that needs to be injected within the team. And somebody has to be an advocate within the company. And that means that they're the ones who are laying the ground for the entire team. It's like the police person, that this is where we chat. We only use Slack, or we only use Zoom for video calls. We only use this for chatting. We will only use this for documentation and all of that stuff. And when somebody deviates, that person is also the one that calls out, like, we should use this instead of this because of this and this and this. Until everybody is accustomed to the way things are, that head of remote person is the one who's going to be there to facilitate these things. This person most likely will also be the person who will reach out to the people, like, how are you? How are things with, with your tools, with your processes? Are there anything that is confusing, so that they don't feel so isolated? With hybrid teams, the last team that I was were 50% remote and 50% in California. And we didn't have the head of remote at that time, but we do have our pod managers. So our pod managers, like the head of the departments, and they are our remote advocates, even though some of them were not remote. And they're the ones who reach out to people who are not remote or remote. And if there are some processes that overlaps between the two, they favor the remote person. Like having a meeting, imagine 5 of you are in the office and 5 are remote. And the normal thing to do is to gather everybody that is in the office in one room, and then just talk to the other 5 people, on the screen, the big screen. In our team, that's not how it's supposed to be. When one person is remote, everybody is remote. And that means that we don't need to go to a meeting room. Everybody must use their laptop, and do a Zoom call, because then you're all playing in an even field. That means that they would see you and interact with you as if you were also working remotely. And this might be something helpful if you have a distributed team, but I guess at the moment everybody is working from home. This is just like thinking ahead later. Right.
Yeah, but I think it's very important, because we are talking about very different things. Fully distributed, we are talking about the current situation. We are talking about 50% teams, and this can be very confusing to someone that just came to the remote work movement. Is like, what the hell are these people talking about? So I just want to spend 1 minute to explain a little bit of, at least for me, the 3 types of remote work that exist.
Right.
For me, the first one is a home office. So home office is basically what we are doing now. For me, we are not doing a fully distributed experience. It's a home office experience where we are all working from home, and we are trying to mimic exactly what happened in the office. So the same meetings we had in the office, we are having them, but remotely. And it's exactly the same meetings, exactly the same process, exactly the same type of communication. But instead of being person to person, we are doing it through Zoom, through Hangouts. But it's the same structure, just home office, same rules, nothing changes. Usually there is a schedule. People start at 9 or at 8, and they finish at 4, at 5, and it's very structured, exactly like it is structured in the office. There is a second type of remote work, in my opinion. Again, this is not official. And for me, it's flexible work. And this is a situation that June was talking about right now, where 50% of the team was in the office, 50% is remote. And what happens in a couple of companies I'm a big fan of is they have a big office, but they give the freedom to the people to work when they want, where they want. So this means they do have an office. People, usually if they want to go to the office to meet the colleagues, they can go, but they can also stay remote. It's totally flexible. They can work anywhere between 7 and 11 in the evening. And the key word in here is flexibility. In my opinion, this will be the future of work. I think 90% of the companies will transition to this second phase of remote work. And because the last one is very difficult to go, and it's very hard for managers to go there and to believe in it, which is fully distributed asynchronous work. This means basically that's a company without any office. A good example is Gitlab. We have good friends at Gitlab. So they have no office. They have 1,200 people in 66 countries. They are huge, and they manage everything without offices, with full asynchronous communication. So they try to have as less calls as possible. everything, almost all the communication is written, and they are totally distributed around the world. They don't care where you are. And this is the last stage. The perfect remote work experience should be fully distributed. But I believe that we are now in the first one, and some of the companies after this experience will migrate to the second stage of flexible work.
All right, great, thank you. So now we are done with our first panel session. Next thing is going to be, we're going to do the first breakout group session. That means you are going to be split up with different people. I will do that for you. The challenge will be that you have around 5 to 10 minutes in each group to make one of these persons that you're with a moderator, self-organized. Find out who wants to be a moderator and takes notes, because the outcome of this little session will be that you are going to have 1 or 2 top questions to the panel when you return after these 5 to 10 minutes, and the panel will answer these questions. Please try to formulate these questions regarding the things you heard now. There will be a second breakout group later on where we will gonna be asking you different questions. The outcome then will be talk about the challenges in your companies and or your needs or your the troubles you're facing. That will be in the next step. For now, please, in these next 10 minutes, focus on the question, what are the key aspects that I just heard? What is unclear to me? And what do I want to ask regarding a specific thing that I just heard now during the last 20 minutes? If you have questions, you can always call me, the moderator, to jump into your group. And I'm more than happy to help out with this. So I will now create the breakout session. And if you have any questions regarding this, just call me to your group. One will be the moderator. Find out 1 or 2 top questions in 5 minutes, discuss it, bring it to the panel, and the moderator will ask, will introduce the questions to the panel, and the panel will answer after the breakout group is done. You will get a 1-minute timer that when the breakout session will be over. You can see it, everybody can see it on his computer. Okay, see you in the session. And now I would love to ask the first group, whoever wants to be the first group. I saw it was Philip, I guess. Whoever wants to start, maybe just raise your hand or just talk, whatever you like.
So I can start. I think we were one of the smallest groups because you shifted people to us all the time. Thanks for that. even moderators from the other group, so that was great. We talked a lot about the things that you talked about and had some questions and one additional tip from Josephine. Maybe I'll start with the tip because I think you all got the message from Josephine.
Sorry, I didn't realize it sent to everyone. I was just trying to send it to the group, but yeah, sorry.
Maybe you want to explain it, Josephine, right away, what it is about. Just in a few sentences.
And it might, sorry if this sounds like a plug, but basically the company I work for, we held an 8-hour Q&A marathon on Wednesday called How to Operate Your Business Remotely Through COVID-19. And it was 4 hours in English, 4 hours in Spanish, when we were basically cycling through a bunch of remote work leaders, experts, advocates, or organizations, etc. Gonzalo was there. Anyways, yeah, so and June was set to participate, but that's okay.
Yes, I missed it.
That's okay. But we basically have the recording out now on YouTube, and that's where that link can send you to this recording. And in the comments, I have put out all the timestamps of every single speaker and the question that they answered. So if you're like looking for certain topics, or maybe you're interested in something more than others, nobody is asking you to watch 8 hours because that's insane. So you can, skip to the certain parts. And in the next few days, I'll be putting out a full question and answers and resources package on the website I sent there as well, because there were so many questions that weren't answered as well during those times. And I'm getting these speakers like after the math also to contribute and pitch in. June, I can also send you the link if you want to pitch in some answers, because yeah, if you want. But yeah, so basically these resources and the Q&A, it will all be up on our site at least by Monday. That's all.
Thank you.
That's why I sent.
Thank you, Josephine. Nice to see you again. And for the others, Josephine was also instrumental in putting this community together, because actually it was a tweet from you, I think, on remoter.com that brought us together and made the first meetup happen. So welcome back.
When it was in Vienna, yes. Before
Josephine
the
knows everyone. She's amazing. She's a
Yeah.
workaholic in demand.
Right, great.
She was with us in Evora too. Yeah. It's really, really fun.
I have to look at the time, and I would love to ask the group for their questions.
So it's just one quick question. What are the tricks to include remote workers in the daily work? So to include them better, what are the tiny tips and tricks that you have to have them more included in the daily work? Not like in the routine that we have now, but more that we have after this whole big scenario that we are facing right now. Yeah, so in the normal business world. This would be the question.
I can go. Nobody wants to go first. This time I can take it. So little tips and trips. It depends on what kind of company you want to be, right? Or what kind of company is yours. If you want to go to the first level, second level, third level. I just baptized these levels yesterday. So yeah, imagine that you want to be a flexible company. Then the keys will be to start implementing flexibility and giving more freedom to your employees. Imagine they have to work between 11 and 3, but in the rest they can come at 11, they can start at 7, giving that freedom to them. It's very, very instrumental. And if that also, you will have to maybe to reduce the number of meetings and having, for example, a minute for the meetings, and everybody, instead of being half of the team inside the office in the meeting room, everybody should be, for example, in their laptop, even if they're inside the office. Why? As June said before, to level the field. You want everyone at the same level, and by having everyone at the same laptop, everybody will be at the same level inside the conference call. While if a group is inside the conference room and the rest is on their laptop, it's not equal. People in the conference room will have much more visual cues. They'll have better conversations, and you from the outside will have troubles going in. So yeah, that little things. Also document everything, and I mean everything. If you have a meeting, document it. If you make a decision, make a document of it. Not only the decision, but also why you took the decision. Meaning, what was the environment, what was the information you got that led you to make that decision. If in every decision that you make, you have this document and you document everything, it will be much easier for everyone, whatever they are, to work remotely without any issues. But I know June will complete my answer.
June, I guess that was for you.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
Sorry. My computer got glitched. But anyways, I'll just to piggyback on what Gonzalo said about documentation. Look, this isn't just when you're working remotely. This is like all the time. Like ideally when your company has started, they should have had this. They should have documented all of the processes that they have. Imagine when you're applying for work, they have all of those responsibilities, right? Or tasks that you need to do. And when you hire that person, you go ahead and give all of those tasks and tell them how to do them, right? And for you should have those things documented. And so now, because we're kind of like pushed into this direction, and you didn't have any documentation before, or maybe you have, but it wasn't so good, it was just like, yeah, we placed, some notes somewhere. Now is the perfect time for you to do documentation, right? This is to write down all of the processes, all of the tasks, and how they are done, who's supposed to do them, when is it supposed to be done, and who is in charge of it in case one person is away. There's always somebody who is a backup person for that task. I put in on the chat room Notion. This is a tool that companies can use to do their documentation. You can also try Confluence if you are not using any tools to document your processes yet. So you can start from there. And like I said, this is not just when you are doing remote now. This is from now and moving forward.
Maybe that was a good trigger for me to comment, because when you say documentation, obviously coming from an agile background, I'm kind of triggered.
Right, yeah, I can tell. Go ahead.
First of all, I have to agree. Of course, documentation is totally important. But I think it depends on what sort of documentation we are really looking for. In general, I would say communication is more important than documentation. So getting together, taking the time to communicate about what the results, for example, you want to achieve, is more important than actually documenting it. But then again, having said that, in an agile environment, we also have the tools and the processes to make sure that everybody understands what needs to be done, like till tomorrow, who is up to what. And you need that clarity. Everybody needs to have that clarity, and then I think it works pretty well.
Yeah, thank you. I have to look at the time. Philip, does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, then I would ask the next team to ask a question that you came up with, and maybe then start with Nora or Gonzalo, or yeah.
Okay, I'll continue from the breakout group too. We had several questions we identified. First one, do you have a top 5 do's and don'ts?
In general, I think it's a little bit hard to give do's and don'ts, because it will really depend on the company. Also, like, are you now talking about do's and don'ts from an employee perspective, or rather from the perspective of the company, of the employer?
Well, from the participants of a remote session.
So the participants of the remote,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in.
Yeah, the
but
employees.
So the participants are mostly employees. Yeah, go ahead, Nora.
I think in general, well, there are a lot of different things you can talk about here, but when you say employees, I also think of do's and don'ts that concern your personal productivity. These things might not be relevant immediately, but midterm, long term, they're very important. So in general, do's or don'ts, well, the do, you definitely need to have a good workspace, even if at the moment it might be a little bit improvised. But for example, if the employees don't have a good, for example, a good work chair or a desk or something where they can work, that is also something that the company might be worth discussing. And for example, investing in a desk chair so that everyone can work well. So get a desk, get your setup, even if it's not perfect yet, but at least don't sit at the kitchen table. That's not going to be a productive work environment. Other do's and don'ts, I think it's also important to really have a routine set up. You're not going to the office anymore, but you still need to find this kind of like a cutoff point. At 9, I'm going to start work, and at some point I'm not available anymore. So don't try to be available the whole time. So this is, of course, also something that needs to be discussed with the manager. Then another point that I'm thinking of is, don't try to implement too many things at the same time. That is, of course, from an employer, that is for employees, but it's also from a manager perspective. Don't try to do too many things at the same time. Well, these are the first 3 things that I can think of. Maybe Michael, Oliver, June, Gonzalo, do you still have any other do's and don'ts?
So the advantage of not going first is that I could actually write them while we're speaking.
that's definitely better.
Yeah.
So thank you for starting. So now I can tell my opinion. No, I'll start with the do's. The first thing I wrote down was prepare your day, meaning don't open your laptop without knowing exactly what you are going to do. And this usually is done in the day before. So before closing your previous day, write down what are the most important things that you have to accomplish tomorrow morning to make your day productive. This is super important to me, as I have a to-do list that is never ending. The second thing is divide your work in sprints. This can be 1 hour sprints, which is what I do. I do 1 hour sprints where I work focused. I finish 1 hour, I stand up, go to the kitchen, get some coffee, get some tea, and I make sure I stand up and exercise. We are close at home. We are not exercising at all, at least most of us. All the time that you can actually stand up, it's great. Today I create my future for tomorrow. Very well. Good planning. Third, don't ask questions to your colleagues before research, meaning stop interrupting them if you can find the answer in 5, 10, 15 minutes. Sometimes in the office setup, we are too lazy to research. It's so easy to say, hey, June, how is that? Can you tell me? Do your research before, meaning go to Google, go to the best practices. If you have documentation like Confluence, go to Confluence and research before you ask. First, you will learn much more. Second, you are not interrupting the work of your colleagues. And that's very, very, very important. Fourth, because I spend my day in video calls like this one, buy good headphones with a good microphone. Or if you do really a lot of calls and a podcast, buy a good microphone as well. But yeah, just as headphones, like I have the Boost K25. I strongly advise Boost. They are great and they have great microphone, to be honest. But yeah, buy good headphones with a good microphone. And last, close your day, stand up and leave home. And this situation, leave the desk at least. Meaning, when you finish your day, it's very easy to keep working until 8, until 9, until 10. Because, yeah, let's face it, it's that or maybe just watching Netflix and it's not that interesting. It's better to have some work done. But no, don't do that. If you want to finish at 7, schedule a call with friends. Get up, schedule that you have to play with your kids, schedule that you have to shower your kids. I don't know, schedule anything that will make you leave the desk and not work more than you should. For the don'ts, very, very fast. I promise I'm much faster now, don't worry. Don't work from the couch. This is the biggest one. Like, no, don't work from the couch. You need a proper setup. Nobody can work from the couch and be productive. Don't turn off your camera on calls. That's super rude. And I advise people firing people by never turn on calls. I know it's very complicated for some people. Just the camera, like you show up. If you show up on the office, there is no reason why you don't turn on the camera at home. Zero reason. Don't ask questions before the research. I told you before, don't do meetings without a plan. Like, don't do meetings without a plan. I refuse meetings that don't have a clear plan of what we are speaking about. It's just pointless. I don't waste the time of the people just to speak about stuff. And those are my 5 do's and 5 don'ts.
I feel like I already ran out of things to say.
Did this answer the questions?
I think so, but some of these things are not so easy to do right now. With stores closed, for example, you can't even buy a table. So, well, it will be the kitchen table if there is nothing else. Right.
People are not delivering there. Just to give you an example, in here, I just ordered a big monitor, a 25-inch monitor. And I couldn't be happier. Like at least Amazon in Portugal is still delivering. Not sure about where you are, but if you buy it online, there is a high probability that people are still delivering.
Yeah, and also even if it's maybe not another table. I mean, well, for example, even like just having I have this nice ergonomic keyboard, so that's also stuff you can just order.
Let's continue to our next group, please. The next group who wants to ask to provide the questions that you have.
Yeah, I can go ahead. We have actually 2 questions, and now I don't know if I will just ask both of them because I don't know which priority we would prefer. So the first question would be, is an environment without physical presence possible? So it means, would you advise working without ever meeting in person? And the second question is, what team size works well? Where would you see a limit?
I'm going to answer the first question, right, about meeting in person. Even the biggest distributed teams that exist right now still makes an effort to meet those teammates in person. It's very important. It's great that we have this flexibility and we can work, from wherever we want. But the point of that is not to isolate ourselves for everybody. It's for us to live our lives the best way we know how, right? Not boxed in on an office. I mean, like, if you want to be boxed in an office, yes, please feel free to go be boxed in, right? But the point of us is like, it's not about forcing people to work remotely. It's about giving them the freedom to work wherever they want to work. And for example, Gitlab and Automatic, they actually arrange team huddles, or like this one big event every year for everybody to be together for 1 week and just be, you know, interacting with their coworkers in person, because you need to have that. You need to have that physical interaction eventually, because it will improve the way you work together virtually. So like I said, it's not about us to be completely virtual. It's about the flexibility of going virtual. That's what we're going after. About the size of the team, it really depends, because we have different tasks, and our companies are very different from one another as well. So there really is no like sweet spot or like the magic number of people in a team. You know, maybe your team would work very well if there's only 5 of you, or maybe it works very well and there's 15, or maybe there's 100. It depends on the type of work that you do, and so it's very difficult for us to actually give a right number to that.
Does that answer the question already?
Yes, yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Was this the first or both questions answered?
Both, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So do we have another group with the question? Hopefully the moderator is still here. Some people left us.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We had one question. We realized the importance of informal meetings. And so the question arose, sometimes the teams have so many meetings that are not interested to meet in a coffee room or in a chat room just for informal meetings. So the question is, how can we motivate team members to enter this coffee room and just use some virtual time for chatting and informal communication?
Great question. Great question. So one way I'm doing that in a couple of companies here is having a webinar, meaning, are you inviting someone external? Now people are inviting me to speak about remote work, or even having someone internal making a presentation, for example, how to use Trello to the max capacity, or just some presentation about something that everybody uses, and that can attract people for the knowledge, and then the social part can be in the middle, like a little bit like we are doing here as well. So by creating content and by motivating them for the content is actually the way the hook that then you can get them to speak and to be social. That's the first one I can remember. It depends, for example, for very introverted people, and I gave this example yesterday. Liam Martin, the CEO of Time Doctor and Running Remote, he pays the employees to play Dota, so to play video games, because they are not very social, but they all love to play video games, the development team. So they use video games to connect people. So instead of just being a chat, there is a purpose. So let's say you love to play a game that you can play online, so you can actually put everyone together online and play the game online. The only condition is that the audio has to be always activated, so that people are around the mission and people are having fun at the same time that they are connecting and bonding.
Mm-hmm. Does that answer the question, Ebert?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, fine.
I just had sorry, I still had an input.
Nora, yeah.
I just had an input still. I mean, it's hard to say whether there's any other option to still reduce the regular meetings that you have, but I was thinking if it's possible, you could also try to move all regular meetings maybe from Monday to Thursday. And when you have a day where you don't have regular meetings, people might be more motivated to join like such an informal coffee chat or whatever kind of environment it would be in. But like, I think also a big problem that a lot of people have when they work remotely, it's loneliness. And if you don't have that easily if you have a lot of meetings, but if you work one day, 8 hours without any contact with other people, then people might actually, well, maybe it's not if they're introverts, but in general, people might feel more inclined to then actually join something like a coffee chat just to have another contact with another human being and not just be in front of the computer.
Right.
Absolutely. May I add also one thought to this? From our experience, I mean, I don't know whether all the meetings are necessary or not, right? So that's a different question. But from my perception, when people get into lots of meetings where they don't get any value out of it, then they are, of course, even more or even less motivated to join another meeting. But regarding this informal communication, I think it's super important that it is really attached to people's needs. Like, what do they need to feel better? Kind of maybe weird, but really nice example would be our daily workout routine that was invented by our UX colleague. It was really fun. So we actually start the daily with a small workout. We do, I don't know, push-ups or so. Not everybody is joining, but it's for those who join, it's really fun and motivating. Mm-hmm. And it's actually, it's a personal need, right? We are all locked into our rooms and we need to do some workout. I think that's important.
Okay. Do we have another question from another group, or are we through? All right, then I would suggest we go to our second breakout session. I learned something from the last breakout session. I ordered you right away now. And that we can start right away. Please, the speakers don't join the breakout session. I moved you to a separate group now. The challenge now will be that you discuss a little of everything you heard now. What needs do you have? What's bothering you to bring this into your company? What might be blockers? What could you do to make this happen? And that's what you're going to discuss. And come back with one or two things that bother you the most, that are the most important for you, aspects or questions that you have regarding your real work life now, what you actually could do, or are you what you want to try out. And then come back with those questions. So welcome back, everybody. So now I would love the first group to share the most pressure needs or thoughts they gave it in the discussion. Ask the panel.
Yeah, should we maybe visualize it?
That would be great. If you want to share your board now, that's great.
Yes. I will do that for you. So, ask your expert.
Yay. So you can ask your questions that bother you the most, what you want to know and take away from here, maybe. So you're struggling with.
Can I start?
Sure.
Okay, cool. We had actually one question that was very specific. It was regarding working remote using pair programming and not at home or not in a room where you are alone, but in a co-working space where there are others. Whether there are any kind of ideas how this could work out.
So the question is how to solve pair programming in remote work, right?
In remote work in a situation where you are not alone in a room, but kind of sharing the room.
Yeah, like when you're on a call, like almost 8 hours a day.
So I can answer that because that's exactly my situation. So I only work. I'm a super extrovert person, and I suffer when I work from home. So I know ideal time for me right now. So I only work from co-working spaces in my normal life. And the way I do it is I only choose co-working spaces that have a lot of phone booths, so I can just occupy one for lots of time. So yeah, that's my conditions. If I go to a co-working space and there is no phone booth, there is no way I will stay there. I just need it, like you. Like it's not 8 hours, but 5 out of 8 probably I will spend on video calls. And I have my podcast. I record my podcast on my co-working space. I do everything on my co-working space. So for me, it's very, very important that there is at least 3 to 4 phone booths. And if they are occupied, that if they are busy, that I can go to a meeting room or I can go to another place to have calls like a cafe inside the co-working space. So yeah, just look for the right co-working space. It's the most important for me.
Esther, maybe you want to write down the question on.
Yeah, I didn't really understand the question, and even did not connect the answer. I didn't really get it.
The question was, how can you make sure that you're not disturbed when you're working in a crowded space or where someone else is, right?
No. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You have to be on the phone like almost the whole day.
Yeah, exactly. In a crowded space or something. So co-working spaces was the answer from Gonzalo. Find a safe space. What do the others say? What does June, Michael, or Nora? How do you handle this situation?
Maybe I can add. I totally agree with the co-working spaces. But I would like to call out to everybody running a co-working space. We need more places that are remote friendly. Lots of co-working spaces really aren't, because also when you mentioned the phone booth, it's a necessity. I understand that, but most of the phone booth, or some of them at least, they are kind of the size of a toilet room, and it's really hard to stand that for like 8 hours a day. So I hope that something is changing here, but yeah. Anybody?
There is funnier places than that, but yeah, the usual fun. There is really cool fun booths, and there is the normal ones also. But yeah, the normal ones, if you stay there for more than 5 hours, can get hard to stay. But yeah, it's better than staying in a room with 10 people and having calls there, even for privacy reasons. Like I don't allow people. For example, I don't allow workers that don't have a co-working space with phone booth to work from co-working spaces.
It's a necessity.
Yeah, Gonzalo, please share the co-working space that you're working from normally with me, because it's definitely a problem that I've also been struggling with. Also, I mean, I've never, I used to teach online as well. So then it's impossible. You can't just do that in the middle of the co-working space. Yeah, you need to have a quiet room. And in this case, just another idea. I know at the moment with Corona, it might not be really possible to do it. But actually what I did several times is that I kind of hosted, well, my place is quite big. I can invite 2-3 people to come to my place and work from here. So sometimes I also just invited people to come to my place or come to my partner's place, and then we just work from there. So by that, I'm not completely alone in the apartment. But on the other hand, there's some other people coming in. And for example, when I have my calls, I can still go to the other room. But, you know, it's like kind of like a mini co-working space. That really depends on your apartment. And if you can set up something like that. But hey, if you have a big apartment, it's really something that you could consider in these cases.
For me personally, I batch my calls. I have Wednesday meetings, so all of my meetings I start from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and it's all meetings back to back to back. And I have like 15 minutes just interval to take a break, or if there's like something wrong, at least I can go, you know, get up and go to the bathroom or something like that. But basically, during Wednesdays, I make sure, and I work from libraries, by the way. Libraries, you cannot talk inside. And I have to go outside to the garden or to the cafes and that kind of stuff. So I think arranging where you're working and being conscious that you will be on the phone for X number of hours is basically top priority. Just like what Gonzalo said, you know, you pick your co-working spaces where you want to work from. Or in my case, I know that during Wednesdays, I will always have these meetings. I need to make sure that, one, I have a quiet environment, and, you know, even if I want to work from a place where I will have coworkers, I will need to have like some space that I can go to, where I will be able to take phone calls from.
Maybe I also just want to jump in what June was saying. So gardens. So if you don't have to teach, or if you don't need to have video on, so if you're on a phone call, I would also really encourage you to just have these calls while walking, if it's possible, depending on what type of meeting or call you have. Because the problem also, well, in general with office work is, of course, you just sit a lot, and especially if you also work from home, you might just sit even more because then you have more calls, and now with this situation, you'll probably do even more sitting. So if you can have a call while walking, just walk around in a garden or maybe even just in your apartment, or try to improvise a standing desk at least. That's a bit more now talking about ergonomics and health, but try to put some books up and then have your computer on there, and yeah, just walk around if possible.
Yeah.
My happiest, go June.
I was going to say that it's just the type of meeting that you will have, right? If it's going to be like an informal meeting, or if it's just a huddle, or do you need to be in front of the computer while you're doing it? All of those things actually matter, and you can always improvise, depending on the type of meeting.
Exactly. And
sorry, go ahead, Gonzalo.
Standing desks are amazing in general.
Just to corroborate, standing desks are amazing. I had one when I was living in Poland. I just bought from IKEA. Worked perfectly. I loved it. I absolutely love my standing desk. So yeah, just to add a note, one more fan of standing desks.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you can't get a standing desk at the moment, I mean, they're quite cheap from IKEA, but on the other hand, if you can't get it at the moment, just improvise a little bit, put a few books on top of each other, improvise a little bit.
I'm not quite sure if the standing desk topic is still impacting the question. So I want to go back to that one. Okay. Does this help you, Claudia, or would you need something else? Is the situation?
I'm not sure, actually, Andreas, did this help you?
Harald.
Oh, no, it's
yeah.
Harald, sorry.
Sorry, Harald. Sorry, I missed the person.
The answers were great. There are two more from our team if we have time.
Yes. Just ask them.
The second question was situation now in Austria is that you are not kind of in the ideal home office, meaning that you probably don't have your own desk and you can't set up everything as it would be ideally, but on the contrary, that you are not alone at home, that you also have to look after your children, and that you have to somehow arrange for the rest of your life while working from home. And the question was whether there are any ideas and tips how to include this kind of rest of your life.
I'm gonna go with this one because I have a kid. I don't know if I know Gonzalo doesn't have one, and Nora, I don't know if you're hiding some. But I mean, like, I've been working remotely for a while. So when my kid was growing up, I had to like juggle being a mother and also being a remote worker. So I might have a couple of tips that would be useful. With kids being at home during this time, it's really difficult because one, you are also trying to get accustomed with your routine and your daily work and life. They're all mushed into together, right? But the best way to do that is to have your routines and incorporate your children's routines in them, to give them activities throughout the day and try to match them to your activities as well. Let's say you have daily huddles in the morning, then you need to go ahead and try to match some activities for your kids to do so that you wouldn't be disturbed during that time when you're having your huddle. And in general, the teams right now, because of the situation that we are in, they're very considerate. So it's not a big problem. But including your kids or talking to them about what the situation is, and to tell them that mommy is working from home and I'm going to have a phone call during this time. Can you do this while I'm taking the phone call? right? And to make sure that they are included with the planning and that they have some things to do so that they don't get bored, because that's usually the big enemy. They're bored and they want to do something and they want to bother you because they are bored. Yeah. And also if I know not a lot of people have the luxury to have an extra room, but just assigning an area in the house
There
that
really needs to be a
you
remote
will be
leader,
working in that
that
area,
also
and
guides
if you're
team
in that
during this
area,
period,
the rest of the
and
family
makes
shouldn't
decisions
disturb you.
as minimalist as possible. This
I think
process,
Michael
these tools, not more
could
than
add
that.
something here, right?
Yeah, I would like to. We had an interesting week because of the homeschooling this week, right? So I think if you ask a question, it really depends on the age of the kids as well. I can only tell you about like between 10 and 13. That's the kind of range we are currently working with. And I think involving the kids and putting a good schedule together that actually works, I think is essential and really helps a lot. What I had to learn on day one is that I was totally over optimistic as to how much work I can actually get done while my kids are doing homeschooling in our little co-working space here that wasn't too remote friendly, to be honest, as well. So I think it's a matter of time, really. Being realistic about timing and the amount of work you can get done, and then agree on a good schedule that also allows for like, this sort of relaxed and informal times that you would want to have with your kids, like going out and play kicker for an hour or so. It all needs to fit in somehow.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. The key here for me is flexibility. Also from the company side, we are talking from the individual side, but from the company side, the employees right now need flexibility. So if they have kids, maybe they are asleep until 10. So give their employees the flexibility to work from 6 till 10 and from 8 in the evening till midnight or whatever it works for them. Don't try them to have a proper schedule because they'll be interrupted by the kids. They will have other things to do at home. This is a very special situation. And so make sure you give your employees as much freedom as you can.
Okay.
We might actually also have.
Sorry. Yes.
I mean, we might actually still have a presentation on this because this is a very big topic, of course. Like Michael also said, it very much also depends on the age of the children. So yeah, June is probably still going to give a presentation on this. We can also
remote working with kids.
Exactly. So we can discuss it more in detail, also talk about different ages and so on. In general, I think maybe still something what we can write down is really to have a dedicated space. And even if it's at the moment just that kind of the kitchen table, maybe you can put, maybe if you have a separate table or something that you can just have your workspace a little bit separated. I mean, for example, unfortunately, while I work from home, I don't have kids, but I also, at home, unfortunately, I don't have a separate room to work in. But on the other hand, I have a living room, and part of it is actually living room, part of it is office. Not ideal, but that's what I got for now. But it's really kind of a little bit separated. So if there's any way you can improvise, I think improvise is the key here. You just need to improvise a little bit how you can get it set up. If you can't get taking this example of standing desk, if you can't get a desk at the moment, improvise with some books. If you can't get a certain thing, improvise or even talk with your boss about it. If they could pay something, for example, pay for example for certain equipment that you might need.
Just a small hint from my side. We have to look at the time, and I would love the panel to give shorter answers from now on, please. Okay. Next question, please.
Can I still add one more, or shall we go to the other groups?
What does the other group say?
How many groups are there?
I think 2 more, right?
Okay, we have a very easy question as well.
Okay.
It might not even be worth writing it down. You mentioned games beforehand, yeah, so online games. Is there some experience, some game you would recommend to play with a team where you share, for example, video and something that has some multiplayer mode that it's quite handy or easy for teams to have some social activity?
I never do it with many people, but Time Doctor is using Dota. I know it's more IT people game that really love Dota. So they are using Dota, which is a very professional game. But I know there is at least 2 companies that are looking into this. So they are looking into build this. So just look for games distributed teams or games that you can do online for distributed teams, and I'm sure you'll find something else. And yeah, just test them. To be honest, I wasn't able to test everything because I'm just overwhelmed right now a little bit.
Also with games, there are a lot of things you can improvise. Like for example, if you are a team with several UX designers or designers in general, there you can improvise. I've seen people improvise games just using Figma, like where they played, just played certain games on Figma. I think you can just Google it. So it depends also very much, of course, on the company and on the teams that you have.
Personally, I don't. Well, we used to play chess, but it was like, you pick up, you pick somebody to play with randomly, and then you play chess. So it's not really like a group thing, but it's still because I used to play chess with my boss, and that worked out pretty well. And we take turns in the team. It's like really short games as well, but I personally don't have a lot of experience with this particular area, but if in social activities in general, we used to have coffee donuts, but these things, the games, social interactions, it shouldn't be forced, by the way. It's something that people need to opt in, because based from experience, if you're required to do it, it becomes like a burden eventually. Like after a while, I stopped going to the donut meetings, because I'm forced to go every once a week, and then there's like a week wherein I'm so busy, but I still need to make time to do the informal meetings, which is like, can I just opt into this when I'm free? But I guess that's, yeah. So these social activities is something that you would be, would like to join in by option, not by force with the company.
Okay, does that answer your question, Peter?
Yes, and that was also the challenge we saw in somehow making these activities work, so motivate people doing it, yeah?
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
Another shout out to the gaming industry eventually, right? There is no replacement for the kicker table. So do something about it.
Okay, another question.
Maybe I come in. In our group, we had consultants dealing a lot with team building. And we would like to keep our business running in the next few weeks and maybe month. And we are looking to ideas how to get with our teams into activities where they can get involved with each other. This is quite easy when you are in a face-to-face meeting. Maybe you can do it with online gaming, but are there any ideas how we can get interactivity into online meetings?
Well, I just shared the link that may help you. So I was looking into this right now, and Time Doctor, the company I mentioned before that uses Dota, they posted an article about 15 games that you can play with your team. One that I really enjoyed, just from writing like across it very fast, was MTV cribs at your home. So just
Oh yeah,
like
that
imagine
one.
MTV cribs. Hey guys, this is my home. Check, this is my
I was
desk.
suggesting this to
This and
somebody.
these are my pets. That looks really fun, and yeah, I would love to do it if someone is up to it in the near future. So yeah, I just saw that article posted there. I will definitely investigate a little bit more about this in the future. So yeah, I don't have many more answers to give than this link, to be honest, but just that idea and proper research. I saw, but just looking into Google, I saw a lot of ideas of different companies and different articles, 15, 12 ideas to do with your remote teams. And I guess more and more companies will start to write it from now on. I think about All Labs is starting to write about it. Staffing.com is starting to write about it. They are from TopTal as well. So yeah, just keep looking into it, and I will push the companies I know to write more about what they are doing.
Oh, one thing that I did try it out with them, at least with the Grow Remote team, is we did a virtual co-work. So I don't know if your team would want to do that as well. Like we just log into Zoom and we would start working, and we would just be there. We know that we're there, and if we need to ask questions, somebody's there to answer it. And you just keep the channel open. You can leave, you can come back, or you can just be there and not say anything. But the idea of having somebody working with you, like it was in the office, it was actually really good.
Okay, does that answer the question? We cannot hear you, Ebert. You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I think the breakout sessions are also a really good idea for engaging the people. Does it come with all the Zoom plans?
Maybe we can give those credit as an answer to Michael's little post-it. He provided the Zoom platform, Esther. Maybe you can write it down at Michael's little post-it up there. Activities to involve each other.
We were actually talking about this in the break. This is a great idea. The breakout rooms are amazing. I'm definitely going to use this for sure in the future.
And it's available with every plan, actually. Yeah.
Breakout.
And also just in general, I mean, a lot of these things, like for example, having virtual co-working sessions, it's something that you can organize in your company. Or if, for example, your company doesn't want to do it, it's also something that just remote workers organize among themselves. So there are a lot of like Slack channels and other communities online for remote workers that, for example, organize these kind of things. So now from just the perspective of a single employee, if, for example, your company doesn't help you with that, but you want it, also just investigate into other remote communities and connect with people. And for example, you set up a virtual co-working session yourself for like these games and these things, yeah.
All right, thank you. Is there another question from someone else?
I would like to add that Nora actually put together a Slack channel for the Vienna community. So we can certainly meet there and share and exchange ideas even after that meeting.
Okay. Are there more questions? Otherwise, we have 5 more minutes left. I think we will share those things, of course. Then I would love you to go back to many.com. We do this quick checkout. Go on the last sheet. After this meetup, I see there are 9 votes now. Another, yeah, 1 vote. Oh, there is 1 vote. We're at number 9 now. Should we have to repost it? Oh, Eric needs to leave. His son goes to bed. Okay. Many.com. I will post the code again. I can share it, maybe. Does anyone else want to vote quickly? Okay. 8.3. Interesting. We were at 8.2. Now we're at 8.3. Hooray! We had an impact.
0.1. Yes.
Oh,
that was increased.
already.
Oh, wait, it's improving.
Better. All right, then. Thank you. Last thing I will share this one again. I will also. Oh, sorry. I will also post this in the chat. And if you want, you could maybe use this little thing. It's a PDF and fill it out for yourself. How did you feel about what you heard today? What were the key aspects of this workshop? And the last and most important thing, what will I take with me and try out immediately at work? So if there was something that you really want to try out, maybe note it down and put it somewhere where you can read it to make sure it really happens. That would be the idea. Okay, then I would love to hand over to you guys. Michael, maybe if you want to say something. Otherwise, from my side, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Oliver. It was a great experience having this this first meetup online. Thank you very much for this, for all the effort that you have put into it. It was really very well structured, and I have the feeling that me personally, at least, I can't speak for everybody, got a lot out of it, out of this. Yes, thank you also to our panelist colleagues. I'm really happy that we could get real experts, experienced experts on board of this meetup, which is was really great. I think everybody has learned a lot today, at least for me. As you know, I'm more the agile product guy and have a different view. It's not like I'm not the digital nomad or the expert and consultant in terms of remote work. So I think that was a very fruitful conversation. The only thing that I find kind of sad now is that we can't sort of move over to the bar and have a drink together. That would be the ultimate finish, and I'm really looking forward to the time that when we can actually
could leave a comment at the wall, right?
Yes.
We can have breakout sessions and everyone gets out their wine.
I mean,
well, Michael, you might have found a new social activity with your team.
Could be. So yeah, actually, that would be great. We need to invent something like this, maybe.
Yeah, the networking part right after that webinar. Yeah.
Right. So thank you, everybody. I would like to hand over to the other panelists for a final round.
Yeah, I would also like to thank everyone for joining. I hope it was helpful. And yeah, we're also going to organize more presentations on specific topics. Today, we just tried to be broad because, of course, there are people coming from a lot of different perspectives. Well, we called it a first aid meetup. So yeah, we just tried to cover a lot of different topics. Please write us if you have any topics that you would like us to talk about more in depth, like for example, homeschooling, or for example, we could also have another session only on communication, team communication, and then we can really go more in depth and also talk about specific tools. The Slack channel is something that we have that you can join. I mean, the meetup was started in Vienna, but the Slack channel is open for everyone. So I just posted the link in the Zoom group chat. So just join, please. And I think that will also be, in general, I think it's also very valuable to just talk to other people, not only from your own company, but also just talk to people globally. And there is a great remote work community that you can always connect with. And for every niche, there's a community. So yeah, just try to connect. And yeah, I hope you thought it was helpful. And thank you very much also to Gonzalo and June. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes.
last words from me is that if in case you know anybody who was in retail and now they're unemployed and they're looking for ways to go remote, so we are going to have a session with Grow Remote, retail to remote. Basically, we're trying to help these people who were laid off, or who were working in retail and had to be closed off because of the health crisis, and we're trying to help them find employment. So if you guys know anybody, I have the link in the chat, and you can forward it to them.
Amazing.
For me, if you like podcasts, listen to my podcast. I usually interview really interesting people. You don't have to hear me speaking too much. I just interview interesting people, so you don't have to hear me. It's at Remote Work Movement everywhere: Spotify, Apple, Google. You can choose where you listen to my podcast. And if your company is struggling, again, I am offering 20 minutes free consultation calls on my Friday mornings only. So I'm doing this for free to help the community. And yeah, if your company is struggling, feel free to hit me an email, gonzo@remoteworkmovement.com. I'm doing it for free just on Friday mornings. But yeah, they are booked just for it. So feel free to reach out to me. And that's pretty much it. And thank you for Oliver as well. I think he deserves, because he was here timekeeping all the time and making sure we didn't speak too much.
Very well organized.
This was the best organized online workshop that I was ever part of. So congratulations to all of you that organized this as well.
I would hand over the thanks to everyone who participated in designing this, because it was a team. There were more people involved, as I already mentioned, like Eric, Philip, and Andreas. They are still here, Andreas, Philip, and also Esther and Michael.
Thank you. Thank you so
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah.
Great work.
Thank you very much.
We will share this on the meetup, I guess, some of those things. And if you want, you can leave a comment, of course, that would be great. Maybe share these little last transfer thing, maybe what you did or something. That would be cool to see what happened with it, if you're comfortable.
Yeah, also
right,
use the Slack channel.
Or that one, yeah, whatever. Thank you.